Hi there. Today, I'd like to present a few options and ideas of how you might organize your Google Drive to help keep your files a little bit more neatly together. And I'd also like to present the option of how you might use Google Drive to help curate your evidence of learning. That means that you might look through the different things you've got and put them into the right spot so that you can look back at them later. As you all know, as you continue to do more and more work and continue to learn new things, you're changing in your skills. And so using Google Drive, you can have a moment to intentionally look back on your improvements and then be able to celebrate those things. During this video, you'll be invited to pause and try some steps for yourself. You'll notice that I'm just in a regular Google window. If I click on the Rubik's Cube or the waffle up here on the right, I'm going to go to my Google Drive. Right now, you'll see many different kinds of files that I have in here, and they aren't very well organized. They all do have file names, but they're just kind of a mess. I can look at my Google Drive and click on this button here to change between the grid view, which you see right now, and the list view. Why don't you try that for yourself? You might choose one that makes the most sense for you in your work. Right now, you're looking at all of my files that I have in my drive, and you can see there are different kinds of files. The icon here on the left-hand corner of my list will indicate the kind of file that I have. Right here, you'll see I have a Google document. This is a PDF. This is a Google slide, and these are different images. You can also see the different owners, the last time they were modified, and the file size. I could also choose to look at a grid. For the work that we're going to do right now, we're going to make things a little bit more organized. You'll see here that I have one folder that was automatically made from an extension that I have added to my account. If I wanted to make a new folder, I would click New Folder. Why don't you try this for yourself, and you can choose the folder that you should have, the name that it's going to have rather. I'm going to choose to name mine by the school year and the grade that I might be in. Go ahead. Once I've got my folder created, you'll see it pops up here on the top. It looks the same as the other file, and if I wanted to make it look a little bit differently, there are some things that I can do. If I use the trackpad on my Chromebook and I do a 2-finger tap, or I right-click with my mouse, here are some new options. I could rename that if I needed to, but if I wanted to change the color to have it stand out, I could do that as well. That might help things to be more organized, but it might also get you carried away. So be careful to make sure that you're using your time intentionally. Over here on the left, I have another way that I can navigate to see the files in my drive, or rather the way they're organized. If I click this button right here, you'll see that I've got my 2 folders that are visible. In this case, I've got my folder for my work and the folder for the app that the extension, that I have added. If I wanted to add some more folders, maybe some of my work is a little bit older, I could do that. Why don't you give that a try? Now, I've got my 3 folders in my drive, but they are empty. Here's how I know. When I click on this folder here, my breadcrumb trail changes. So you can see that now I'm in the folder called Grade 6. Right now, I'm in the folder before 2020. If I wanted to put some things into that folder, the easiest way to do it is by clicking and dragging. You'll notice it leaves this space. If I wanted to put more than one thing in that folder, I can hold down the Shift button if my things were all in order, and then drag those files over. Or I could hold down the Control button and select some items that might not all be side by side. Why don't you give that a try? Now that I've moved some of my files, I might really want to recognize that some of my files are the best files, and I really would like to have them in another place as well. Maybe out of my Grade 6 folder, I'm going to actually make another one, and I'm going to call it Best Work. Or I might call it portfolio. Why don't you give that a try? So in my grade 6 folder, you can see that I've got another one inside, a subfolder. If I click on that arrow there, I can now see both of them. But here's a problem. Maybe I have something that I've put into my grade 6 folder that I also want to have in this place. How am I going to do that? If, imagine, this folder was something that I wanted to have in my highlights or in my best folder as well, then I might click on that using the right click or the 2-finger click, and then I can actually make a copy. Now, things that are important when you're trying to organize things to be able to look back later. Maybe my best work folder, I want to say when I made this file. So your naming structure might be different for you. One that I might suggest is this, but let's watch this step first. I'm going to make a copy. You'll see it called copy of November 28th. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on this and I'm going to rename this and I'm going to call it Portfolio November 2020. And then I might give a description about what it is. So let's pretend that this was a really good writing. Really good writing. That's not very good English. A really good piece of example of my writing. So the naming strategy that you use will be up to you and your teacher, but it's one way that you might help to find things later. When I say OK, then you'll see that my 2 files now have different names. So in order for me to move this, I could click and drag. Or what do you do if the files open in front of you? When I look up on the top of something, when a file is open, you'll see always this consistent pattern. The name, a star if I wanted to add it to my favorites, and then this folder here, how I can move a file. If I click on this, I can now put it into my best work or my portfolio. Sorry, I'll do that again. I can now click on this folder so that that one is located in my special portfolio folder. So this might be the structure that you would use to be able to move things and gather things that you're most proud of. And that decision would be something that you would talk about with your teacher, and you would probably be guided to do so. I'm going to move a whole bunch of these files over now. I'm going to click on the top, click Shift, and move them all at once into that grade 6 folder. It takes a minute, but there they go. This is a great way for you to organize your work. It's really valuable to take some time and be intentional when gathering things and naming things. And if you wanted to use your Google Portfolio or your Google Drive as something that you shared with your teacher or with your parents to show the best things, or even just to come back to it later, there are ways that we can do that. It's important to remember when you're working with Google Apps to make sure that you're being a good digital citizen and that you're being responsible with your work. In this case, if I was going to share this with my teacher or my parents, I could go to my portfolio. So you see here that I'm in that folder, and I could click on that little arrow to be able to share it. Now, in this moment, to be able to share this information and access to this folder, someone will have to have given you their email address. It's always important to have permission. Those are steps that your teacher might guide you through at some occasion so that you can take your work and have someone else, another audience, look at it. This is really valuable when sharing your work with your family or with your responsible adults or with your teacher. It's not something that you should do just kind of on your own. It's important to make sure that that is done with structure and support. I hope that helps. Good luck with your Google driving.